Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Woo Woo Girls Guide to Infinite Wisdom with your host, me, Mary Oquendo, and the lovely Laura Sanger-Watkins. Hi,
Hello.
Laura.
Hi.
And today we're going to interview one Daryl Waters Connor. And I first met Daryl many years ago. I was a brand new speaker at a trade show. In fact, it was a trade show that was in Rhode Island. And Beth and I, that was the girl that I was co-teaching the pet first aid class. We were like the new kids on the block, the new kids in school. And then all the cool kids and all the other speakers were like huddled together. And Beth and I are kind of standing there twiddling our thumbs. And, do we talk to the cool kids or do we stay there? We didn't know. And then all of a sudden, Daryl comes over. Daryl was one of the cool kids. And she comes over and she puts her arms around us. And she goes and she introduces us to the other cool kids and tells us she heard such wonderful things about our class. And when was I going to go up to Maine to teach a pet first aid class at her house? I was just, from that moment on, I was just simply in love. I have a girl crush, and it's on Daryl Waters Connor. And over the years, Daryl and I have been not only friends, but she's also been a mentor to me as well. And when I asked her, she actually had brought up something a couple of years ago that she wanted to do something. She wasn't quite sure if it was going to work, but she really wanted to do it. And she decided to go for it. So this is why we're talking to Daryl today. Hi, Daryl.
Hello.
So tell us a little bit about the conversation that we had a couple of years ago about wanting to do something. You wasn't sure it was going to work. And I want to make one more mention. This morning on her Facebook page, she put up a meme. I want to live a life I don't need a vacation from. And you feel you've accomplished that, haven't you?
I have accomplished that, and I didn't even know that it was really a goal until I saw that meme the other day and went, oh, I've actually done this, which is very cool. So I'm not entirely sure that I remember the conversation that we had, to be perfectly honest, but I'm thinking that it had something to do with living a life that involves a lot of animals and some small farming. Is that correct?
That would be absolutely correct.
Okay. So there's a little bit of a backstory. And first of all, hi, Laura.
Hi.
So my backstory is that when I was a little kid, I grew up in a small town in Massachusetts, and it was on the verge of becoming a larger suburb of Boston, but the time that I was growing up, it was still pretty much country. And my dad had grown up there, and it was very much country when he grew up there. And his dad, at some point, had a chicken farm. And I, as a little kid, was hatched out of the egg wanting to be with animals. And I particularly had an interest in chickens. And I begged my dad for years and years and years, could I please have chickens? Could I please have chickens? And at one point when I was about 8, he said, yes, I could, and that we would convert my old playhouse into a chicken coop. And I was ecstatic. I dreamed about chickens. And then that was one of the few things he never fulfilled. I mean, generally my dad was a man of his words. If he said he was going to do something, he did it. But he never came through with the chicken thing. In fact, he swore that I made it up. So fast forward to, I'm 48 years old, and we had just moved from the city of Memphis, Tennessee, to a very rural town in Maine. And we had a couple of acres of land, and having chickens suddenly seemed like a possibility. But I thought to myself, oh, I'm too old. I'm 48 years old, and, people that have chickens and little farms and stuff, they start much younger, and I'm too old, and maybe in my next life I can have chickens. So that went on for about a year. And then one day I thought, I'm not dead. I can have chickens if I want chickens. I've been wanting them for 48 years. What's wrong with me, So I organized, and I got myself 4 chickens, and I was just elated. And then chickens were kind of the gateway animal to farming, because after chickens, I got some sheep. I raised a few lambs. And then after that, I got a horse. And then my horse was lonely, so I got some goats. And then I got more chickens. Anyway, so at this point, our count is 1 horse, 4 dairy goats, 20-something chickens, 6 ducks, and various other sundry animals come in the spring and are raised for to go later on to freezer camp. So the farm is a busy little place, and I'm now 55 and realize that I have, as you mentioned earlier, made that meme happen, that I have created a life that I don't need a vacation from.
And I think that's awesome because
I love
Laura.
that. I was just going to say, I love that, I just turned 47, and I'm sitting here thinking that I'm too old for stuff. And, thank you for saying that you're not too old.
I'm not too old, and neither are you.
And you know what? I think we tell ourselves these things because I hate to say this. Society always says, I worked in the industry when I was younger that if you didn't make it by the time you were 30, you were never going to make it. I worked in the record business for a long time. And then I worked at there's other places. There's always this expiration date. But, maybe if I wanted to be a lead ballet, the lead ballet performer at the Joffrey Ballet, that might be too late for me today. But it's not too late for me to do other things. It's definitely not too late for me to have chickens. I can just break into my neighbor's coop next door. But I love it.
It's not too late for so many things.
And I think is it just my question to you, and this is just as me being very selfish and thinking, okay, well, she did it. How did she do it? How do you get over that voice in your head that says, oh, that fear voice that just kind of sits there and naysays everything, even though your heart is saying, I want this, I want this.
That's a good question. So one little trick that I do with myself a lot, because I have a lot of fears, that I was raised by a fearful mother.
Oh my
gosh,
I
have a lot of
fears
in my life. And so what I will do is I will think, okay, so I really want to get chickens, but I'm too old to get chickens. But, and I play back all the things that are wrong. It's too many more mouths to feed, and I'm already so busy, and do I need to take on that responsibility? And then I think, this is my big question that I ask myself all the time. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, so the worst that could happen with getting chickens was I won't enjoy them, and I'll find a new home. Whoop-de-doo. So I got the chickens, So I do play the what's the worst that can happen game a lot in my head.
That's a good question. I never seem to ask myself that because I'm so busy imagining really catastrophic things instead of really asking myself realistically what's the worst thing that could happen.
Yeah. And don't overthink things, you have to think things enough to plan them through and be realistic, but don't overthink to the point that you're horribilizing and talking yourself out of taking on, challenges that you want to take on. Just think, what's the worst that can happen? The worst is this. Oh, I can handle that. Let's go for it. Or it might be, I can't handle that. Let's come up with a different plan.
Well, to be very personal and honest, I have embarked on a get healthy kick, and I'm quiet about it because there's that woo superstition that if you tell too many people about your intention, you're going to dilute it. But I can tell you guys this and our listeners, I want to lose about 10 pounds, but I want to lose 10 pounds 12 times.
Yes, good for you.
So what I need, so far I'm 4 pounds down and 6 pounds away from my first goal. But the thing that I've been telling myself is what's the worst, not what's the worst that can happen, but I'm too old, it's too late, it's too hard, blah, blah, blah. And the worst thing that could happen is I could die if I don't change this.
There you go.
The best thing that could happen is okay, even if I don't get down to the goal I think I want, even halfway there is a tremendous improvement. So that's why I'm only doing it 10 pounds at a time. And I love that word.
10 pounds is a whole size of clothes.
Yeah. Well, horribilizing. I want to make that a thing because I do that all the time. I'm always horribilizing.
Well, quit it.
I want to.
I actually like that term, horribilizing.
Isn't that great? Because that's exactly what it is. I sit around horribilizing all kinds of things.
Yeah,
if I start running, everyone's going to wind down their windows of their cars and yell and laugh at me out the window. You know what? No, maybe not.
Maybe not. Maybe they'll think, go you.
And if they do, so what? What's that going to do? Who cares? Really, ultimately.
Good for you. Good for you.
That's awesome, Laura.
Yeah.
So
well, you know
right
what?
now you are 40% to your first goal. Is that correct?
That's right. That's
All right. That's almost halfway.
And I'm also counting what I like to call little wins, which is for example, for today I drank 3 cups of nettle tea, which is my goal because I was told if I drank 3 cups of nettle tea every day for the next week, I'm going to feel different. So I'm trying it.
Awesome.
It's a little thing. But, I'm trying to add healthy things rather than take away other things. But anyway, it's not about me. I want to hear more about how Daryl got so awesome.
Well, here's one thing I want to ask Daryl, too. A lot of women, they feel kind of stuck where they are. This is the path they chose, and they can't now veer off of it because they've invested too much time into that path. And part of it, I think, is they don't have a support network for them. So who's been your support network? And who hasn't? And, you know, maybe a better question would be, who hasn't supported you and that didn't really matter?
I'm going to talk about who has supported me first. So the first support person is my husband, who we've been married for 31 years, and he is just a general all-around good guy. And anytime I dream up some crazy thing I want to do, like I wanted to become a certified master pet stylist, this was about 18 years ago or something, or 15 years ago anyway. I wanted to do that, and it was a bit of a project. It was sort of expensive. You had to buy a bunch of study equipment. There was a lot of travel involved. There was, you know, weekends away from home. It was going to be a pain in the neck. So he busted his buns and got me everything he could get me, the whole study guide and everything for Christmas. And then he nagged me pretty mercilessly every day until I got it done. And I finished that certification faster than anybody else ever had. I think I did it in 10 months, and the average time is 2 years.
Wow.
So not only does he support, he puts his size 13 boot up my tush till I get stuff done. So that's a good thing. And I also have a daughter who is not only a really neat person, but my best pal. And she, since she was a little teeny kid, has been a major cheerleader for me. And anything I want to do, she's like, "You can do it, Mom. Let's do it, Mom." And she's always just really, you know, really right there with me and cheering me on. And, you know, no matter how crazy it is, we can do this. Let's do it.
That's
so
awesome.
those are my two biggest cheerleaders.
I've met Rachel. Rachel is awesome in her own right, by the way.
Yep, she's a good kid. Not a kid anymore. She's a grown-up woman, but she's still my kid. So.
So, and okay, now who have been your naysayers?
My biggest naysayers myself. I can't really say that I have a lot of naysayers. I have the negative voices in my head, and I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Maine, there are bodies of water everywhere. There's beautiful ponds, beautiful lakes, rushing rivers. It's gorgeous. And there's a beautiful lake right across the street from my house. A friend that I met when I first moved here had a kayak, and she was always talking about kayaking. And I thought, you know, that's something I would really like to do. But again, I've never done it. I'm not very athletic. I was overweight. Kayaking sounded pretty exotic. So my friend loaned me the kayak, and actually loaned me too. And my daughter and I went out and tried it on a little pond, and it was shallow enough pond that if we fell in, we figured we could walk shore without dying. And we had a great time. We had a ball. So the husband bought a kayak, and I began kayaking. So one day I went by myself. So this is where the negative voices come in. I went by myself on the pond across the street from us. And it was in the late afternoon, early evening, and I'd left a note saying where I was, but really nobody knew where I was. You know, I was just me, myself, and my little red kayak. And I got out on the pond, and it was gorgeous. It was beautiful, and I was having such a great time, and I felt athletic, and I felt capable, and I felt confident, and I felt strong. And it was just this amazing experience out there by myself. And then I got to the end of the pond, and the wind kicked up. The sun had gone down, and the wind had kicked up, and I realized I was paddling as hard as I could, and I was going nowhere. And there was a pretty good chop and wake coming up. And all of a sudden, my mother and my grandmother, who were both long dead, one was on one shoulder and one was on the other. "You fool! You're going to die. Who will raise the baby?" The baby at this point was like 16. You know, and you know, "You're crazy. You took foolish risks with your life." I mean, I can hear their voices as if they were alive and they're with me in the boat. And it was terrifying. I had some terrifying moments. And then I had to say, okay, they're dead, and they're not really here, and they're not really saying that, and I'm fine. You know, if worst comes to worst, I follow the kayak and I swim to shore. And I can do that, and it's fine, and nobody's going to die, and the baby's 16, and she's not going to die either, and it's all good. So the voices in my head are by far the naysayers, and I don't think I really have a whole lot of real people naysayers. But the voices in my head are pretty powerful.
Well, yeah, I think the voices in your head are pretty powerful. For years, I mean, I started my own business at the age of 40. And 2 years prior to that, I went back to work. And prior to that, I was a stay-at-home mom. And for a really long time, I was just like rooted that this is my life, and I wasn't going to do anything, and I wasn't going to do what I wanted. And it really took taking those voices in your head and saying, you know what, excuse me, but you really need to shut up. I'm kind of tired of listening to you, and this is what I'm going to do. And then I did it.
Good for you.
And my husband
And you
was
did it well.
You know, but it's been a journey. It's been a wonderful journey, by the way. I have learned so much from the day I went back into the workforce to where I am right now. And I did have naysayers in the beginning in the form of my family, because they were very, very used to having a stay-at-home mom doing everything, and their what's the word we're going to use, slave, was no longer there to do everything for them. So their life changed a little bit, and they weren't prepared for that. But you know what?
They were all older
very,
at that point too, right?
They were old. My youngest was 16. The other two were already away at college.
Right.
But now hubby is probably my biggest supporter now. But I always thought Chris is awesome, your husband. I mean, he's just right from the second you decide you want to do something, he's like right there. And Nessa needs to chill on it a little bit and think about it, and get past himself. And then I think that's a really good idea. I'm glad I supported you from the very beginning.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I had to say that, I'm pretty blessed in the fact that, my husband is pretty tolerant of my hair braid schemes, because some of them are harebrained, and, he's pretty supportive. The only time he's ever really said no to me is when I wanted to, commit to something that was a little over a year, and it was a couple $100 a month, and he was like, is that something, and he just kind of posed it to me, is this something you really, really want to commit to? Kind of not, not telling me, well, that's crazy. He just kind of said, is this something you really think you're going to, and, and then the more I thought about it, the more I realized it really wasn't something that, I mean, at the time I was like, then I was kind of like, not so much. Yeah. Sometimes he knows me better than I know myself.
Huh.
Which scares me a little, but for the most part, he's been pretty supportive. And, he, plus, as I've told Mary before, he's usually the beneficiary of my woo-woo experimentation anyway. So he's like, okay, you want to give me Reiki? I'm okay with that. You want to make me some aromatherapy lumbar massage oil? Go ahead. And now I'm like, we're gonna drink nettle tea every day. He's like, okay.
Okay, so how does the nettle tea taste? That's the next question.
Actually, it doesn't taste so bad. I mean, I'm terrified. I have to go harvesting it next week, and I'm really scared because I'm going to have to bring gloves, and it's a pretty mean plant. But apparently, it's chock full of a million different kinds of nutrients. It actually kind of tastes sort of like a green tea.
Okay,
it's kind of mild.
My goat, so it's got to be good.
Yeah, it's kind of mild. You can actually cook nettles like you would Swiss chard or spinach. You can you can saute it. You can put it in your salads. Apparently, it's extremely nutritious. I had no idea. I mean, I just thought it was that nasty weed I wanted to avoid. And now I'm like, I'm going to go harvest all the nettle.
Well, there you go. That's great.
Your goats. Well, goats are. I met some goats over my vacation last week. They work at a cranberry bog, and it's 100% organic bog. And the goats are employed to go out there and eat all the weeds.
I love it.
And they do it. They love it. They're like, I love my job.
Too. Yep, and they fertilize while they're at it. They're very good.
I met a Nubian goat. He was the only one that wasn't working that day.
Oh, that's nice.
So, Daryl, what do you foresee in your future?
Oh, well, a lot of more of the same, to be honest. I write part-time, and I enjoy writing a lot. I write for several magazines and some online sites as well, and I would like to do more of that. I recently opened my own business. I just celebrated my first year of owning my own business, and that has been a wonderful, fabulous blessing in my life. And I would like
Happy business birthday.
Thank you. I'd like to pour more energy into that. That's been a lot of fun. I mostly write about animal-related stuff, and I would very much like to branch out into something different, very different, and I'm not quite sure what, and I'm scared to death, but that's on the goal list.
For our listeners, you can read Daryl online at petcha.com. That's PETCHA.com. She has some wonderful articles up there. And one thing I would like to mention that Daryl and I are working on something together. You want to tell them about that, Daryl?
We are. We are working on a book about holistic pet grooming. And Mary's really good about nagging me, and I'm almost done with the last chapter. So that's
I could actually now
soon.
cross something off my to-do list. Don't have to nag Daryl this week.
Don't have to nag Daryl this week. She was on vacation and she came back and texted me and said, "How's the book?" And I was like, "Oh crap, she's back."
Well, that was exactly what she texted back too, by the way. Oh crap, you're back.
Yeah, well.
Well, everyone needs a fairy godmother sitting on their shoulder.
That's right, exactly. And at least there is a positive voice, unlike the voices of the mother and grandmother that were with me when I kayaked.
Right. I don't want to go kayaking with them either.
Yeah, they were scary broads, but but it was all good. It all ended up well. And I felt so empowered when that was all done and I hadn't drowned. I was like, I did it.
Oh my God! You know, when I was about 16, I was a counselor at a camp, and I went hiking by myself and promptly got lost.
No.
Oh no! And this is like up near the Canadian border. There's like, I don't know, thousands and thousands and thousands of acres up there. And I didn't realize what a pickle I was in. And thank God I didn't have any naysayers in my head, because I'm just like moseying along. Well, you know what? If I find a road, I'll be good. You know?
And did you?
Yes, I did.
Oh, good.
Proof positive that I'm here today.
Yeah, getting lost.
And still not wandering the forest of Canada.
That's right. I'm glad that you found that road.
So yeah, we do survive some of our worst challenges.
You know, that's something you mentioned, writing. That's something I've always kind of wanted to do, and then I start doing stuff, and then somehow, and this is I horribilize everything as I go along. I actually once wrote 10 chapters of a novel, and then I stopped and made the grave mistake of rereading it and realizing it was complete crap, and I chucked it. Just chucked it. Because I was like, oh, what a load of BS this is. And, now I'm kind of mad because I'm thinking, if I was less violently angry about how bad it was, I could have kept it and kind of gleaned the good stuff out of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Or
now
maybe it was just a lousy first draft and you still need to go back and do that again.
Well, I don't even remember what it's about anymore because that was so long ago. But that experience kind of scared me off from attempting to write anything again.
Well, you could write little stuff. You could write the magazine article.
Well, that's what I was thinking too. It's like, I've been blogging a little bit, but I'm really bad about keeping up with it. Like, how do you stay on top of your blog without getting?
A good question.
Because I'll tell you,
I have a blog and I write a bunch on my blog. And one of the things I do, Mary actually turned me on to, is you can do a blog challenge, and you can find different ones online. Mary had me do one, or she got me interested in doing one this spring that was like a alphabetical challenge. So every day you wrote about something with a letter of the alphabet starting at A and ending with Z. So that was cool because I wrote every day because I was really anxious to complete that. That was fun. It was a fun thing to do. But basically what I do is if I can't think of something to blog about is I go out and take some pictures. And then after I take some pictures that I like, then I'll just blog about something in one of the pictures. That's kind of how I went over that.
That's a pretty good idea because one of the things I was, would like for myself, I have a lot of different things I'm interested in, a lot of different things I'm getting involved in, which is part of my problem with my blog is I always feel like, I should only blog about one thing. Then someone recently told me, no, you should just blog about your life and occasionally say, oh, yeah, by the way, I make jewelry, or, oh, hey, I mix essential oils if you want a personal blend. But, and I was thinking, well, that's kind of weird. It's sort of like writing a diary online. And they're like, well, no, then your people get to know who you are. And, there's more personal that way. So I was thinking about kind of changing the flavor of my blog. I just haven't done it yet because, again, my naysayers and my horribilizing and stuff. And eventually I'll get over that, too, because, I love that. I'm going to ask myself that question all the time. What's the worst thing that can happen? Nobody reads it. Big deal. At least I'm still writing.
And what's one funny thing about blogging is that a lot of my customers read my blog, people who I wouldn't necessarily expect would. So someone will come in while I'm grooming their dog and they'll say, oh, I read that you just went to the street festival in Belfast. And I'll be like, how did you know that? They're like, oh, yeah, because I wrote about it. So sometimes I surprise myself with things that people know about my life, but I put out there and I just throw it out into the universe, and then I'm so surprised that people actually are reading about it.
Pretty cool. Well, plus, too, I guess if your customers have been reading your blog, then there's none of that awkward, like, trying to make small talk. They can just jump in with, oh, hey.
Yeah, they can jump right in. How's that sick goat feeling? It's all good.
I love, I'm somebody that creeps your blog every now and then, so I love the pictures of your front porch where your customers wait. And I love when you, I love your before and after photos. That's like my favorite part.
That's very nice. That's very nice of you. Thank you.
Well, it's fun for me. I vicariously get to check out all these cool pets that get all spiffed up. And recently I was loving your super fluffy chickens.
Oh my gosh, they're hilarious. I laugh every time I see them.
They are hilarious.
People say, what are these chickens for? And I say, well, in China, these are silky chickens. We read it as chickens. I say in China they're a delicacy because they have blue skin and they're supposed to be like some fabulous meat. They're tiny. I can't eat them. Oh, they're supposed to taste like the essence of chicken. And then they don't lay very many eggs. And they're so tiny I can't even imagine eating one. And so I think their main purpose in life is they make me laugh every time I see them. So that's a pretty good purpose in life. Right?
That's a great purpose in life. They look like something you make feather boas out of.
I know, they're crazy. They look like something Walt Disney invented.
They're fabulous.
So making you laugh keeps them out of the big pot.
It keeps them out of freezer camp. There will be no freezer camp for the silky chickens.
I could see them all gathering around. If we make her laugh, we don't go to freezer camp.
That's right. That's exactly that.
So I can imagine these little chickens sitting together with pen and paper and coming up with jokes and trying them off on each other and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And, you
got to make me extra fluffy today. Fluff me up.
That's pretty funny.
Now, have you done any creative grooming with the chickens yet?
I haven't yet, but I'm fantasizing about, there's 4 of them, and I'm fantasizing about dyeing them pastel colors, each one a different color. Because the customers already think that I'm the crazy animal lady, and that would just push them right over the edge.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Most of my customers have stopped dropping their jaws when I open up my mouth, which is a good thing.
That's good.
Yeah, it's a very good thing. Now we're starting to over to the flip side. Now they're asking me questions which they thought would have been insane of them to ask a year ago.
Oh.
Can I recommend a crystal for them?
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So I always find that funny. And about a year ago, they'd be like, really?
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 Well, good. You can. I'll ask you a question like that. Rachel just started a real estate job, and I want to get her a cool crystal for her desk. So you can be thinking about what would be a good crystal for her desk.
Ooh, that's good. I heard she passed her that test, the real estate exam test. That was just really good.
She has her real estate license, and she actually is currently employed, and she has her first listing. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
What do you think, Mary? Green aventurine?
Yeah, green aventurine would be a good choice. Also some fluorite, some purple fluorite.
Okay, so you're going to have to tell me later, because I'm not going to remember.
Oh, no, well, this is going to be recorded, so all you have to do is listen to it.
Okay, good.
Listen to your own radio show.
I'm trying to remember what was in your prosperity grid.
I don't want to hear myself talk, so it's okay.
Okay, so while I'm thinking of it, jade would be another one. Copper, pyrite, any of the yellow stones.
Oh yeah, pyrite.
So copper, basically any green and yellow stones, and make sure you throw some copper in there.
Okay, very good.
I'll write that down for you later.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm not sure I really listen to the radio show either. I let Laura do it. I was like, I can't hear myself talk. I can't do it.
No, I know. So
and that's me horribilizing. How horrible do I sound on the radio? Do I sound horrible, Laura?
How many times do
Not
I
at all. You sound very charming.
Thank you.
Yes, you do.
So I need to stop horribilizing.
They did an interview with me when I first opened my business. A local TV station did an interview with me. And I got a lot of customers from it, and a lot of existing customers would say, oh, I saw you on TV, and it was so great. And they brought me a DVD of it, and I have yet to watch it because I know that I said about 5,000 times, and I just don't want to see it.
Well, Barclay, that's one of the big places that has the trade shows where Daryl and I have spoken for. They finally recorded one of mine and Beth's classes. And I have yet to hear it either, by the way.
It's hard. It's hard to look at.
I haven't looked at it, and I haven't listened to it.
So I understand completely.
So I'll have to take everyone's word for it and say that it was good and just tell me it's good and I'll believe you.
I'm sure it was wonderful. We'll just leave it at that.
Yes. That is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to leave it at that. So, Daryl.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming tonight and letting us interview you. This was fun.
You are most welcome. It was very pleasant.
Thank you. Just pleasant?
I appreciate it, too. You definitely gave me things to think about. I find you very inspiring. And the two things I'm going to walk away from this is I'm not too old and stop horribilizing.
You're not too old and stop. And I have to tell you that the years between 48 and 55, when I've been collecting all these animals and adding all this workload to my life, have been some of the happiest ones I've had. So,
well, that's very exciting to hear.
Life is good. Yep. Life. I wake up every morning and I'm sort of excited to see what the day holds. And,
and that's actually a really good blog topic, by the way, or an article. Stop horribilizing and you're not too old.
Stop horribilizing, you're not too old.
I think it's great that, your life is sort of like being on vacation because it's, or not wanting to take a vacation from it because you're just having so much fun.
I know, and plus it's hard to get anybody else to milk the goats if I do go on vacation. So that's part of it.
Well, certainly there's got to be some sort of service that does that.
Yeah, not here. No, my sweet daughter has volunteered to house sit for us and milk goats if we venture away from home to actually take a vacation. But I feel bad, leaving that all with her. But I'm going to do it anyway.
You know what? Rachel would be honored and do it in a heartbeat.
And I know she will rise to the occasion. She's a very capable person.
She is. Okay, so Daryl, thank you. We're going to end up the show, and now, especially as my dogs are starting to bark, would probably be a really good time to do that.
Excellent. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right,
again.
so I will see you around Facebook and at an upcoming trade show.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.